Hey guys, Rod here. I'm back, probably for a limited time only. I wanted to show you guys a really awesome machine that I just finished building a couple of weeks ago. Here it is. It's a belt sander and a drum sander rolled into one. It looks pretty cool. It's incredibly easy to build. It's a real beast when it comes to stock removal. And if you change the belt to a finer grit, it can do very delicate work as well. Quick disclaimer, I didn't come up with this. I didn't design this. I got the plans right out of the pages of Woodsmith magazine, volume 40, issue 240. Okay, let me tell you more about it. Okay, you heard me say that it's easy to build, and it is. It's incredibly easy. This whole thing is made out of 3/4 inch plywood, just about all of it. In fact, this is what it looked like before the paint. Another cool thing about this project is that there is no complicated woodworking joinery involved at all. In fact, this whole thing comes together with just butt joints. Here's an example of a butt joint. This is a butt joint. It's just when one piece of plywood is butted up against another piece of plywood like this, and it's screwed along the edges right here. So it's easy to build. All right, so let's talk about the overall dimensions. The machine stands at about 45 inches tall, and it's about 45 inches wide side to side. The height of the work table at its lowest setting stands at 37 inches, so it's a little taller than your typical kitchen counter. Also, the height of the table is adjustable. It does go up and down, but I'll tell you more about that later. Another thing you might be wondering is what's powering this machine. So installed, we have a 1 horsepower motor, and it's totally enclosed so that it's protected from dust and debris. And it's connected to this on and off switch right here. The machine works great. It's a total beast. It removes stock like crazy. So there's plenty of power right here to handle just about anything that I'm gonna throw at it. Seeing as how we're talking about a belt sander, we need to talk about two things. How do we tension the belt, and how do we make it track correctly? First, let's talk about tensioning. Okay, let me explain how the tensioning system works. You see this roller right here? It's actually being held in place by a sliding box that nestles very nicely within the cavity in the machine stand. That sliding box slides in and out, and it's actually spring-loaded, so it's constantly pushing out into this direction, and that's what provides the tension for our sanding belt. Let me show you what it looks like. Here's our machine. Let's remove the sanding belt, and let's get rid of the work table. Now let's make a little cutout so you can see exactly what's happening inside. Here you can see how the box is spring-loaded and is constantly pushing against the back of the machine. Tightening and loosening the knurled knob allows the box to move back and forth. Now let's talk about tracking. How do we get this belt to track correctly so it's not traveling up and down when we're using it and falling off the rollers? That's when this tracking mechanism comes into play. This is the tracking block, and this is the roller shaft. The shaft that runs up through the middle of the roller is captured by the tracking block up here. Turning the knurled knob pushes the tracking block forward, which in turn causes the shaft in the roller to also tilt forward, causing the belt to track downward. If you slide the tracking block back, it will make the roller and shaft tilt backwards, causing the belt to track upward. Using the knurled knob, you can make delicate adjustments to the tracking block so you can find the magic sweet spot that causes the belt to track properly. Another great feature that helps with the tracking of the belt is actually the shape of this idle roller. I'm not sure if the camera can capture this, but this is not a perfect cylinder. If I can close up with the camera enough, you'll be able to see that it's actually tapered on both ends by 1/16 of an inch. That means that it's wider across the middle than it is on both ends of the roller. This actually makes it easier to balance the tension on the sanding belt right across the middle of the roller. Also, as you can tell, both rollers are made of several layers of 3/4 inch plywood just glued together. And by the way, I don't have a lathe, so I actually created the cylinder shape and the tape ring all on the router table. And I can show you how to do that in the next video. You might be wondering if it's difficult to change between sanding belts, and it's not. It's totally easy. You don't even have to remove the guard or the dust shroud in the back. So all you do is tighten the tension knob until the belt becomes loose, and you simply just slide off the old belt and you slide on the new one. And so changing between grits in the middle of a project is fast and simple. Alright, so this sanding belt is 6 inches wide. One frustrating problem you might run into with some commercial machines is that their work tables are in a fixed position. So what ends up happening is that if you use a belt for a long time, you end up wearing out the grit on the bottom 2 inches of your belt, and you leave the top 4 inches completely unscathed and unused. Something cool about this machine is that you can actually adjust the height of the work table. You can actually raise it and lower it so you can take advantage of the full width of your sanding belt. So being able to use the entire width of your belt means that your belts last longer, they don't wear out as quickly, and it saves you money in the end. Another really cool thing about this machine is the size of this work table. It is 30 inches long and it is 10 inches deep. So there's plenty of room to tackle large work pieces and just about any other project I can dream up and throw at it. Also, it's important to mention that the table is perfectly squared to the platen the entire length of the table so that you know that you're always sanding square. Right down the middle of your table, there's a miter track that you can mount a miter gauge so that you can sand the edges of your work pieces nice and square, or you can tackle sanding jobs at different angles. I also made a stop that slides right onto the miter track and locks down, because sometimes, especially when working with small pieces, you need a stop to work against. I did make some modifications to the original Woodsmith plans. The Woodsmith plans has this machine solely as an edge sander, belt sander, but I thought, why not turn it into a drum sander too? So the way you turn it into a drum sander is you remove this star knob in the back. The next thing you do is you remove this front dust shroud piece right here. You just pull it away because it's held together with magnets. And then you just swing the dust shroud away to expose the drive roller. Now all you do is drop in your drum sanding table, and voila, you got a drum sander now. Okay, so something you should know about this roller is that it's not tapered like the roller on the other side. This roller is a perfect cylinder. It's completely flat, so that we can use the entire width of the roller as a drum to sand against. Okay, so I want to turn your attention to all these little doodads we have here on the motor mount. First of all, we have these circular wooden knobs right here, and we also have these wooden tabs with thumb screws stuck in them, and we even have star knobs on this motor mount plate, both in the front and in the rear. So basically, all of them together make up the fine adjustment mechanism that allows me to bring the drum sanding table 90 degrees to the drive roller up here. First, you drop in the drum sanding table. Then, you tweak the adjustment buttons in order to get the table 90 degrees to the roller. Once you got the table exactly where you want it, you tighten the thumb screws on the wooden tabs and you tighten the star knobs on the motor plate to lock it down. Okay, so what we have here is a model of the motor mount. This is the motor mount plate and this is the side plate. And what we have here is a copy of one of the lower platforms of the drum sanding table. Alright, so let's drop in our drum sanding table. So let's pretend for a second that this level is measuring the squareness of our table to our roller. Turn the button downward and the table falls greater than 90 degrees. If you turn the button upward, the table tilts forward less than 90 degrees. Once our table is square, we can lock down the position of our table by tightening the thumb screws and the star knobs. So with everything locked down, the table will not move. It is fixed in that position. So now we can use our drum sanding table. So one frustrating problem that I'm always having in a small shop is that every time I build a jig like this that I need, is that I have to find a place to store it when I'm not using it. Especially jigs like this that are big and clunky and irregularly shaped, it's kind of hard to find a place for something like this. What's cool about this guy is that it stores right on the machine. I also made this bracket to store the machine's power cord so that it's not strewn all across the floor when I'm not using it. I put the machine on all swivel 3-inch casters so that I could easily move the machine around from spot to spot in my shop. And whenever I need the machine to be immobile, all I gotta do is apply the brakes. So if you like this project and you want to build one for yourself, you can click on this video and I take you through a step-by-step process on how to make this entire machine, including all of my current modifications on it. I'll even include the woodsmith plans down in the description box below. Or if you're curious about what goes into making a big machine project like this, you can peruse or skim through the next video just to see what you would be in for. As always, thank you very much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Until next time, thank you. Hasta luego.